Kashmir is beautiful. Any note on Kashmir begins with this line, and why not? The beauty of Kashmir has been acknowledged by nature lovers all across the world.
ऐसा सुना था कि कश्मीर जन्नत है, तो वाकई में कश्मीर जन्नत है।
कश्मीर में अगर बर्फ नहीं होगी तो हमारा गुजरान कुछ भी नहीं होगा। क्यों? पानी की हमें कमी हो जाएगी, हर एक चीज की हमें कमी हो जाती है।
बर्फ इतनी पड़ती थी कि कहीं किसी वक्त 5 फुट, किसी वक्त 7 फुट और 8 फुट से लेकर 10 फुट तक बर्फ पड़ती थी।
फल फूल था, सेब के दरख्त थे, उनको बहुत बड़ा नुकसान हुआ। जंगलों में भी बहुत बड़ा नुकसान हुआ।
चिल्ला कलान खत्म हो गए, अभी ये बाहर आया है, उसकी बीबी है, उसकी अभी पोता आने वाला है। अब सबको चेंजिंग आया है, चिल्ला कलान में भी चेंजिंग आया है।
Better climate means better health, and better health signifies better life. The Indian Himalayan region is one of the most vulnerable mountain systems in the world. Being a mountainous region, we are most susceptible to climate change and global warming. Jammu and Kashmir is the third most vulnerable to climate change in India. The situation is already scary, but the spread of coronavirus has made it scarier. Only a naturally balanced climate can rescue us from the trouble we are in. Any further imbalance will make it irreparably dangerous.
We are seeing some of the winters we have seen in the last 1 decade, they were snowless cyclones, or they were very harsh. So some year it is very harsh, some year it is almost dry. So this unpredictability in the weather, this unpredictability in the climate is basically an indicator of the climate change. This indicates that this is climate change.
Kashmiri apple has a taste of its own. Though grown elsewhere in the world, the apple of Kashmir is a source of great flavor and delight. The apple orchards give a distinct touch to the landscape of the valley. As the autumn recedes, there is a seasonal change in the valley. With the onset of winter, the whole Kashmir valley assumes a different look. The snow carpet presents Kashmir as a bright white landscape. The icicles hanging on the roofs presents an eye-catching scenery which tourists document with their memories.
दोस्तों, आप अपने परिवार के साथ बिल्कुल आइए, यहाँ पर बहुत मज़ा आता है और यहाँ की सुंदरता, यहाँ की प्रकृति बहुत अच्छी है। बर्फ तो बहुत शानदार लग रही है, यहाँ पर एंजॉय करने में बहुत मज़ा आ रहा है और बच्चों के साथ तो और भी आनंद आ रहा है।
Different seasons have their own charms, all different seasons have their own beauties. So it doesn't really make a difference whether you visit the Valley of Kashmir in summer or in winter. It is beautiful all around the year.
यहाँ पर कश्मीर में बर्फ होनी चाहिए, जरूर होनी चाहिए। क्यों? अगर ये नहीं होगी फिर हमारा गुजरान नहीं होता है।
But there is a darker side to the snow too. Sometimes a heavy and premature snowfall causes a lot of damage to chinars and apple trees. That is really challenging for those who are associated with the fruit business.
इस साल बहुत बड़ा नुकसान हुआ। पहली बर्फ आने से पत्तों पर जब बर्फ आई, धोखा मिल गया।
How do climatologists see premature snowfall as a seasonal phenomenon?
Snowfall in first week of November is really unprecedented and it indicates one of the climate extremes. So though we don't have the data in the Indian Himalayas, including Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh about the climate extremes, but there have been some publications, there have been some reports which have shown that the frequency of the climate extremes in the Indian Himalayas is increasing. So we can't basically get rid of the climate change. Climate change is there. Only what we can do is either we can mitigate it, reduce it in magnitude, or the best thing is that we adopt to it. So the climate change adaptation is the best way to mitigate or to reduce the impacts of the climate change on livelihoods, on farming community, on orchardists.
जो ये वक्त आ गया इसमें पहले ज़माने में इसमें वक्त से पहले ही बर्फ आती है, बहुत लोगों का नुकसान होता है। जो ये माल मवेशी का वो घास था वो भी पौधा हो गया, फसल भी नुकसान हो गया।
To address this particular problem, the experts have devised different methods.
So the agriculture scientists of this place need to produce climate resistant varieties. In light of this experience for the last 2 years, I would suggest that the Department of Horticulture, the farmers, the orchardists should go for those varieties of apples and other crops that don't stay on the trees till end of November.
हाई डेंसिटी जो प्लांटेशन एप्पल में जो है एक बहुत ही एक बेहतरीन एक टेक्नोलॉजी है, जिसको अडॉप्ट करने से मैं समझता हूँ जो आमदनी जो है, जो आज आपका 2-3 लाख रुपए या 5 लाख रुपए का, तो मैं समझता हूँ ये 15 से 20 लाख रुपए आप कमा सकते हैं। टेक्नोलॉजी को देखते हुए हमारे जो फार्मर्स है, आर्चर्डिस्ट है, जो प्रोग्रेसिव फार्मर्स है, आगे बढ़ के आएंगे, इस टेक्नोलॉजी को अपनाएंगे और अपनाने से मैं समझता हूँ कि उनका जो भी अपना इकोनॉमिक कंडीशन है तो वो बहुत इम्प्रूव हो जाएगा, उससे सोशल एक स्टेटस बढ़ जाएगा, साथ ही साथ वो एम्प्लॉयमेंट भी बहुत जनरेट कर सकते हैं।
Land system changes that have been happening, for example the conversion of irrigation intensive rice paddies into horticulture, although it has been being promoted by the government, horticulture is being promoted by the government as an economic solution to the economic miseries of the state, but you have to look into the health costs. For example, if you look into the amount of pesticides and fertilizers that our orchardists use in Kashmir, whether it is scientifically permissible or not, we are basically exposing ourselves to more chemicals, and what it has done is there have been incidences, severe incidences of brain tumors as well as cancers among the apple orchardists in Kashmir. So apple at this point in time may fetch us 7,000 crore or maybe 30,000 crore in the years to come. But what about 20 years down the line, if you have a massive population and most of them are faced with basically GIT cancers or brain tumors? So something of that sense has to come into policy. I don't think it has to be just economic reason. It has to take into, our policy has to take into consideration economic, ecological as well as the health implications of any transformative economic policy.
जो एग्रीकल्चर लैंड है वो कन्वर्ट हो गया है ऑर्चर्ड लैंड में। वो इसलिए कन्वर्ट हो गया ऑर्चर्ड लैंड में क्योंकि उनको जो इनकम है, जो दान से पैडी से इनकम मिलता था वो बहुत कम मिलता था, उनको बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ती थी। क्योंकि जो ये हाई डेंसिटी प्लांटेशन है इससे उनको बहुत फायदा मिलेगा। वो ये समझिए आप ये कैश क्रॉप है।
The frequency of erratic snowfall events that Kashmir has experienced over the past few years, it has to be looked into by the apple orchardists and also the experts from SUKOST, which is predominantly an agricultural university, to look into whether the promotion of high density apple orchards is sustainable over the long run or not. But as of now, it seems like one of the solutions, economic solutions to the burgeoning economic problems that the state faces. But people need to basically further research it, whether the changing climate can have negative impacts, and maybe the schemes that government promulgates as of now 30 years down the line, whether those schemes will be effective or not.
The real question is a great shift from agriculture to horticulture. There is a huge conversion of land in this regard, and we are curious to know the reason behind this. Among many reasons, one is scarcity of water. Earlier, in most of the villages, springs were the main sources of irrigation. But now, springs have dried up. Secondly, the snowfall is not regular and timely. Snow in the midst of winter would last in the form of ice for a longer duration. It would stay in forests and would become a very useful source of water during the dry months to follow. Another question of concern is why winters are dry and what is responsible for this huge climatic change. Is this a simple climate change or the story is different?
Kashmir is predominantly an agricultural economy or an agrarian economy, but because of the changing stream flow patterns, people have shifted from agriculture to horticulture. People are now converting their irrigation intensive rice paddies into apple orchards. There are two reasons actually for that. One is the prime reason is essentially the economic reason, because apple fetches them more money. But climate change that has forced basically depleted stream flows is also one of the culprits that is responsible for change in the form of or change in the downstream land system changes, especially agriculture.
According to the study published in the journal Climatic Change on 29th July 2020, Jammu and Kashmir Himalayas may see temperature rise of 7 degrees by 2100.
Now, under the changing climate scenarios, what will be Kashmir, what will be Jammu, what will be Ladakh by end of this century? And this is one of the study that our department had done under the Center for Excellence on Glacial Studies. We projected different scenarios. So how will be the Kashmir, Ladakh and Jammu by end of this century in terms of temperature, in terms of snowfall, in terms of precipitation, which are the indicators of climate change. So one of the scenarios, which is the worst scenario, if the people don't care for the environment, if the government does not formulate policies on the mitigating climate change, if the nation states don't agree to the Paris Agreement, what will be the scenario? Scenario will be very, we call it RCP 8.5, so representative construction concentration pathways 8.5. This is the worst scenario, and we said that the Kashmir under that scenario can be 7 degrees hotter.
We have here at 40 days, we call it as Chilai Kalan, when this lowest temperature that perhaps broke the records of 20 years. That much temperature went sub-zero freezing point. But once those 40 days were ended, we had abruptly shoot up in the temperature. It should have been normal. Our experience is that there would have been a gradual increase in the temperature, but it abruptly was relatively warmer, and that is what many of the scientists, climate change scientists, they say that it is the extreme these in temperatures or the extreme say patterns that we are witnessing in these weather phenomena or climatic phenomenon that are the signals, that are the indications of the climate change.
Due to rising temperatures, the snow melts earlier than expected. The severest spell of cold, locally called Chilai Kalan, has changed its texture now. Now, it's not that severe as it once used to be.
ये चिलकलान जो है, चिलकलानों का अब नाम ही रह गया है। उतना काम करते नहीं है जितना पहले ज़माने में कर रहा था। तो इस वक्त बात ऐसी है, हम ठीक ठाक अपने काम इस चिलकलान के दौरान में कर रहे हैं। देखो जनाब, आज 30 दिसंबर है, तो हम ठीक ठाक है, चिलकलान भी अपना काम कर रहे हैं, हम भी अपना काम कर रहे हैं। तो सर्दी उतनी महसूस नहीं होती थी जितनी पहले ज़माने में हो रही थी। पहले ज़माने में हमें लोगों में बहुत कमी थी, क्यों हमारे कपड़े भी कम थे, क्यों अपना माल थे, सब कुछ थे, अपने घर में बैठे में आराम कर रहे थे। हम लोगों को अब ये तड़फान दुनिया की है, तो इसमें तो हम बैठते नहीं हैं, क्यों चिलकलान भी हमें महसूस होता नहीं है जनाब। तो बर्फ़ तो गिरती है मगर उतने नहीं गिरती। यहाँ पर 2 फुट 3 फुट और 4 फुट कंगन से 12-13 किलोमीटर हम यहाँ पर गईवन में, तो यहाँ पर तो हमने कभी 3 फुट से ऊपर बर्फ़ देखी नहीं।
Compare it with 100 years or 200 years, whatever that kind of snowfall, we don't experience today in Kashmir. Definitely there is a less snowfall. But just looking about 2-3 years, data, and then you say this year we had more snowfall, so there's no global warming. I think this is not correct. This is some local variation. This time you may have the western disturbances, because of that you got this snowfall.
This time around, I think the winter was a little too intense. We had a little more unorthodox snow in Srinagar as well. The period of chill was also very, very intense. The temperatures went down to -8, -8.5 in Srinagar. The ice on Dal Lake also, I don't think I've seen such thick ice on this beautiful lake ever in my life. So this time I think it was a little on the intense side.
But in the longer perspective, definitely we will be experiencing less snowfall and warmer winter months, and that harsh Chilekala, I think it will be the talk of history.
उसने भी चेंज लाया अपने को, भाई क्या करें, लोग बदल गए, हम भी बदलेगा। वो पिछले नवंबर से 21 दिसंबर तक बोलो कितना टाइम हो गया, उनसे 40 दिन निकाला अपना, ठीक है ना। अब ये बात देखो कितना रोशनी है यहाँ पर, बहुत मजा है, गर्मी भी है, धूप भी है, बर्फ कुछ नहीं है। ये लेक जमता था, ये इस वक्त आज 24 तारीख है, इस वक्त लेक जमता था, बर्फ इतना गिरता था पूछो मत।
तो जैसे कि मैं पहले यहाँ पे आया था तो मैंने देखा बहुत ठंड थी, तो जब मैं इस बार निकला इस टूर पे तो सभी ने मेरे को बोला कि चिले कलान चल रहा है, तो चिले कलान पे मत जाओ, वहाँ पे बहुत ज्यादा ठंड होगी, बहुत ज्यादा ठंड होती है, क्योंकि सड़कों पे पानी की वजह से कोहरा जमा हुआ होता है, गाड़ियां स्लिप वगैरह करती हैं, ठंड तो बिल्कुल लग ही नहीं रही है। तो अच्छा से इधर यहाँ पे हम बर्फ से के साथ हम खेल सकते हैं। मौसम की तब्दीली, ये जंगल की कटाई और ज्यादातर ये जो ईंट वगैरह ये जो भट्ठे लगे हुए हैं उसकी वजह से ये सारा कुछ, ये सारा मौसम में तब्दीली आ गई।
Climate change is a global phenomenon. The Arctic ice is melting fast and the sea level is gradually rising. The experts portray a very scary scene of the future. With the rise in sea level, many countries surrounded by sea may completely disappear. Even many coastal areas may go underwater.
Maybe the cause of fossil fuel burning, or overall some kind of deforestation is also taking place, and then more pollution. So obviously the carbon buildup in the atmosphere has gone up. It has gone more than 410 ppm. And pre-industrial time, this carbon dioxide concentration was 272 ppm. So obviously when we look at this data from 272 to 410 and even beyond, obviously there is a more carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere. So this is a greenhouse gas because it entraps the heat of the sun and doesn't allow it to escape back to the atmosphere. So that gives a warming effect. With that warming, we call it as global warming.
Climate change impacts other spheres of life, causing floods, droughts, and other such natural catastrophes. Temperature is constantly rising, and that's a big cause of worry. Melting of glaciers will cause water shortages in many parts of the world. Melting glaciers narrate a very sad story.
Now, one of the very important resources that the Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh has, the most important resource is snow and glaciers. So we have to keep in mind that the per capita water availability in Kashmir, in Ladakh, in Jammu is one of the highest in the South Asia. And the reason is because of the large number of glaciers that we have. We have almost 12,000 glaciers in Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh. So this, because of the changing climate, particularly the increasing in the temperature and also the depletion of the snowfall. So what is happening in this region, Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh, so we are getting less snowfall and correspondingly we get more rains during the winter. So because of less snowfall, because of increasing temperatures during the summers and spring, so the glaciers are melting at an enhanced rate. So that is a cause of worry. So if you look at the glaciers of the Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh, as I said, they are receding, they are shrinking at a relatively higher rate as compared to the glaciers in other parts of the country. Now, if you look at I will tell you the Kolhai Glacier, which is the largest glacier in the Kashmir Valley in the Jhelum Basin, is every year on an average melting 20 meters. And if you look at them shrinking in terms of depth, so it is losing mass almost 1 meter, 90 centimeters, 92 centimeters every year.
Where will the solutions come from? How can the problem be addressed? First locally, then globally. Developed country is not a place where the poor have cars. It's where the rich use public transportation, as 60 people are adjusted in a bus as compared to 5 in a car.
Charity begins at home, so we should start by looking at how much carbon footprint we produce individually, trying to reduce reuse of refrigerators, ACs, and using public commute as much as we can. Governments can also work towards developing efficient transport systems, because we see in countries like India, the transport system is not very well managed across the country, so people tend to use private transport more.
We don't have a very effective public transport systems, especially in the developing countries. So the place like the India, the states, Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, or other states of the India, if you look at that, the density of cars is increasing very rapidly. As a result, you have very significant increase in the emission of these greenhouse gases on the streets and on the roads. So we need to have a very efficient public transport system so that the number of cars, number of vehicles comes down. Tunnels are one of the best ways. So you reduce the travel time between Jammu and Srinagar, let us say only 2 hours or 3 hours. It will have a huge positive impact on the environment.
With an increase in population, the crisis will deepen. In 1960, the world population was around 3 billion. In 2017, it was 7.2 billion. And in 2050, it's expected to be 9 billion plus. This will give rise to much bigger problems like food production, which will not be proportionate to the population hike. If we really want a healthier planet, we will have to mend our ways. We have to be smarter. Kashmir fortunately had a vast green area, but we have destroyed a major part of it. Our valley was green, but we have destroyed that greenery, and we have to restore that charm if we and our generations are to survive.
Mindset should always conserve the natural greenery, and wherever you have the space, you should add to the greenery. So this can make a change.
As teenage activist Greta Thunberg said, "Our house is on fire, we know what we have to do to put it out." There is such a thing as moving too slowly. The problem is not just local, it's global. But we have to start from home and take the mission ahead to save our planet. The climate change is not a myth. It's a fact that stares us in the face. Alongside creating new employment avenues for the people at present, we have to think about our future as well. Sooner we take steps, better that will be for us and for our posterity.